Hello! Today I'm presenting the qualitative case study on how ethics education is preparing, or in some cases not preparing, future accountants to navigate real-world ethical dilemmas. As many of us know from experience, ethical conduct is a backbone of our profession. When ethics break down, trust breaks down, and without trust, accounting simply cannot function. The study brings together the voices of accounting, students, educators, professionals to understand where ethics education succeeds and where it needs real improvement. In the accounting world, we've seen time and time again, technical expertise alone isn't enough. Scandals like the Macy's Freight accounting fraud are reminders that even well-trained professionals can make devastating ethical mistakes. But what's interesting is when many accounting students say they don't feel equipped to deal with the pressures and gray areas they encounter in practice. Ethics education often leans heavy on theory, definitions, framework, professional codes. These are essential, of course, but do not always prepare students for the uncomfortable, high-pressure decisions accountants face daily. The purpose of the study was to explore how people across accounting pipelines, student educators, and working professionals perceive the value and effectiveness of their ethics education. I grounded the study in REST's four-component models of moral behavior. This model reminds us ethical decision-making involves more than knowing the rules. It includes awareness, judgment, motivation, and moral character. In the accounting profession, we rely on all four of these components. The central question guiding the study was simple but important. How well does ethics education prepare emerging accountants to handle the ethical dilemmas they face in real-world practice? To answer this, I drew from both Rest and Colin's theories of moral development. These frameworks remind us that ethical decision-making grows over time and through experience, not just through reading a textbook or memorizing a code of conduct. This question helps reveal where students and professionals see alignment between ethical instructions and the workplace and where it truly disconnects. The literature makes 3 points very clear. First, experimental learning, things like role-playing, case studies, peer discussions, is significantly more effective than lecture-style teaching when it comes to building ethical competence. Second, there is a documented disconnect between classroom ethics and real-world practice. Students often tell researchers they don't know how unstructured and ambiguous ethical dilemmas can be until they are faced with them on the job. And third, the influence of instructors and institutional culture matters. When ethics is woven through the accounting courses, students internalize those values. When ethics is treated like a standalone chapter, the impact weakens. For this study, I conducted a semi-structured virtual interview with 15 participants who had direct experience with ethical education. Virtual interviews allowed participants to speak openly and comfortably, even though those are working full-time. Each participant provided digital informant consent, and interviews were completed within 1 week to maintain consistency. I analyzed the transcripts using Braun and Clark's thematic analysis method, which helped identify recurring patterns in participants, understood and evaluated their ethics education. One major theme was that most participants generally value their ethics education. They recognized how critical ethics are in their field. They also agreed that much instruction they received were too theoretical. Many said that they learned definitions, frameworks, and rules, but not enough guidance on how to handle messy real-world situations. Situations in where the pressure is high, where answers are not always obvious, and where organizational culture may push them in the wrong direction. This tells us ethical education provides a foundation, but not the bridge between real-world application, which can be weak. The strongest learning experiences come from applied, hands-on activities, case studies, ethical dilemmas, reflective discussions, and role plays. This moment gave participants a chance to test drive their moral reasoning and see how decisions would play out. Participants described the aha moments when placed directly into realistic scenarios. These experiences stayed with them far more than lectures ever did. This reinforces what we see in research, experimental learning, and just beneficial is essential for ethical development. Overall, Overall, the findings suggest that ethics education is doing an important job, but it isn't yet doing the job completely. Ethical understanding is forming, but ethical competence, the ability to act with integrity when it counts, is still lacking. This is essential important in accounting because your trust is our currency. A gap in ethical preparedness can be serious consequences for firms, clients, and the public. Of course, the study has limitations. The sample size was modest, the participants were from similar backgrounds, the study also relied on self-reported experiences and may introduce bias. These limitations mean we must be careful not to generalize too broadly. Patterns are still meaningful. Looking ahead, several opportunities stand out. First, ethics may be woven throughout the accounting curriculum, not just placed in single courses. Students benefit when ethical reasoning becomes a regular part of technical learning. Second, future research should dive deeper into experimental methods. Reflective dialogue and scenario-based simulations were reported praised by participants and supported strongly in the literature. Third, studies should follow the students over time, into internships and early careers to better understand how ethical preparedness evolves. And finally, mixed methods studies combine interviews with moral reasoning, essential, and help us understand the link between students learn and how they actually behave in practice. Ultimately, strengthening ethics education strengthens the professional and the profession itself. Thank you for your time.